Jake Paul's trash-talking antics landed him in brutal condition after a single devastating punch from Mike Tyson. Yes, you read that right, just one punch, and Jake was down for the count. But wait, wasn't their fight scheduled for July 20th? Here's the tea. During a press conference in Dallas, things took a shocking turn. Jake, true to his provocative nature, couldn't resist taking a personal jab at Tyson. He crossed the line, saying, "I'll bury you next to your daughter." The audacious comment hit a nerve, and Tyson responded in a way only he could. Swift, decisive, and unforgettable. Jake, who probably thought he could walk away unscathed, ended up learning an early lesson. His confidence and pride were shattered as he found himself bedridden after the blow. But let's rewind to the infamous press conference at Madison Square Garden on May 20th, 2024. The event was meant to promote their highly anticipated fight scheduled for July 20th, but it quickly spiraled out of control. The tension was palpable as Jake upped the stakes with his relentless trash talk. Known for his brash provocations, Jake pushed Tyson too far. His words, crafted to provoke, hit below the belt, and Tyson decided to shut him up on the spot. One punch was all it took to leave Jake reeling and the boxing world in shock. Stay tuned as we dive into the aftermath of this unforgettable moment that changed the tone of their rivalry.
To the people is on July 20th, Mike will be put to sleep and he will feel my power, and I will go down as the man who put Tyson to sleep for the last time.
Jake Paul had always been known for his brashness and ability to provoke, but at this press conference, he went too far. What started as a typical war of words quickly escalated into something much darker, something no one in the room was expecting. Jake didn't just trash talk, he went for the jugular, pushing all the right, or wrong, buttons in an attempt to get under Tyson's skin. And boy, did he succeed. It all started when Jake, with his usual cocky smirk, made a pointed comment about Tyson's past, calling into question his legacy and his mental fortitude. But Jake wasn't satisfied with just insulting Tyson's boxing skills. He aimed straight for Tyson's heart. The remarks were personal and ugly, targeting not just Tyson, but his family and his late trainer, Cus D'Amato. Jake's words were loaded with venom, but it was one particular line that set the room buzzing with tension. Cus D'Amato's legacy is overrated. He couldn't even protect his own. Look where you are now, Mike. Wasn't he supposed to make you invincible? The room fell deathly silent. It was a gut punch, and Tyson's face twisted with rage. Those words didn't just sting. They tore open old wounds that Tyson had buried for years. His eyes were full of fury, and the air in the room grew thick with the sense that something catastrophic was about to happen. But Jake didn't stop there. He continued his ruthless attack, mocking Tyson's deceased child in one of the most tasteless ways imaginable. The cruelty of the remark sent shockwaves through the room. Jake's words were no longer just trash talk. They were a direct assault on Tyson's humanity. Even your own blood couldn't survive your shadow, Mike. What kind of father does that make you? At that moment, Tyson snapped. His body tensed, and in an instant, he lunged across the stage with the speed and force of a man possessed. His fist became a blur as it connected with Jake's face, unleashing all the anger and pain that had been building up for years. The sound of Tyson's knuckles colliding with Jake's face was deafening, a brutal echo that seemed to reverberate throughout the room. The crowd gasped, and the media quickly scrambled to capture every moment of the chaos. Security rushed in, but they were too late to stop Tyson's initial onslaught. The scene was a whirlwind of shouting, flashing cameras, and frantic movement as several guards struggled to restrain Tyson, who was now desperately trying to get at Jake. When the dust finally settled, Jake Paul was left sprawled on the floor, his face a bloody, swollen mess. His once cocky grin was gone, replaced by shock and pain. Blood oozed from a deep cut above his eye, and his face had started to swell up like a balloon. It was a horrifying sight that seemed straight out of a brutal knockout from Tyson's heyday, but now it was Jake who was on the receiving end of the punishment. Even legendary boxing commentator Max Kellerman, who had seen countless fights and press events, was taken aback by the ferocity of Tyson's reaction. Mike's temper is legendary, but this was a side of him I hoped was in the past. Jake Paul pushed him too far, and now we see the consequences, Kellerman remarked. It was a moment that stunned the entire boxing world. Jake's injuries were severe. Doctors confirmed multiple facial fractures, a broken nose, and a shattered cheekbone. He would need surgery to repair the damage. His team issued a statement saying that Jake was recovering but warned that the extent of his injuries would likely prevent him from fighting anytime soon. Speculation swirled around whether the scheduled July 20th fight between Jake and Tyson could even happen after this incident. Tyson, however, showed no remorse. In fact, he was almost indifferent to the aftermath. He crossed the line, Tyson said. This is what happens. The boxing world was left in shock. What was supposed to be an exciting showdown had turned into a real-life brawl with serious consequences. Tyson's message was clear. Push him too far, and this is what you get. As for Jake, the fallout from the incident didn't stop with the physical damage. The press conference that was supposed to build hype for the fight had turned into a bloody spectacle, and Jake was left to pick up the pieces. His social media posts following the event seemed almost comical in comparison to the chaos that had unfolded. There he was, still in the midst of his recovery, showing off his battered face and trying to portray himself as a victim, all while his team scrambled to salvage what was left of his image and his career. Jake had wanted to provoke Tyson, to get under his skin and create drama for the cameras. But in doing so, he underestimated the fire he was playing with. And now, with a battered face and a shattered ego, Jake Paul had become a victim of his own reckless mouth. The press conference had been a battlefield, and it wasn't Tyson who had come out on the losing end, it was Jake.
Had to pay them a lot of money for no reason. And I'm like, it just pisses me off.
Jake Paul's post-press conference rant was a far cry from the cocky attitude he had just displayed on stage. This time, he appeared shaken, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and sadness. The public persona he'd so carefully crafted over the years seemed to crack as he aired his frustrations during a live stream, revealing a side of himself that few had ever seen before. It was clear, Jake wasn't the confident trash talker anymore. He was the victim in his own eyes, and the world was now witnessing his emotional breakdown. Adding fuel to the fire, Jake began to make strange claims about the severity of his injuries. He posted videos showing himself with a cast and bandages, suggesting that he had been seriously hurt during the attack. But as quickly as he made these statements, they began to unravel. In one video, Jake claimed, "I dislodged my shoulder lifting up a gym boulder in one of my spars. It hurts, man, and the doctor said I can't fight in this state." The oddity of his statement caught the attention of fans and analysts alike. Lifting boulders in a sparring session? It was too bizarre to be taken seriously. The reactions to Jake's injury claims were divided. Some fans expressed sympathy, painting him as an innocent victim of Tyson's uncontrollable rage. Jake was out of line, but no one deserves to be beaten like that. One fan tweeted, echoing the sentiments of those who believed Jake got more than he deserved. Yet, there was another side to the story. The boxing community, along with a large portion of the public, took Tyson's side, feeling that Jake's reckless taunting had earned him every punch that landed. Jake's big mouth got him exactly what was coming to him, said sports analyst Stephen A. Smith, reflecting the thoughts of many in Tyson's camp. But Jake wasn't ready to accept the consequences. He quickly retracted his initial claims about his injuries, acknowledging the absurdity of challenging a legend like Tyson. This about-face was telling. It was clear that Jake had underestimated Tyson's power, both physically and mentally. His subsequent emotional rants and video posts only fueled the fire, with many people starting to question his sincerity. His videos, which showed him visibly upset and frustrated, spread like wildfire across social media. He said, "I don't know how this got so out of hand. I just wanted to hype the fight, not end up in the hospital." This emotional breakdown revealed how much pressure Jake was under. Despite his cocky, confident public persona, facing a boxing legend like Tyson had clearly gotten to him. The breakdown showed a side of Jake that no one had seen before, a side that seemed vulnerable and real. It complicated the already murky situation for the YouTube star-turned-boxer. As days went by, fans continued to argue passionately on social media. Some defended Jake, claiming his actions were simply part of hyping the fight, while others condemned him for crossing the line and being disrespectful. This incident served as a stark reminder of the fine line between hype and hostility, and how easily the latter can lead to real-life consequences in the world of professional boxing. But Jake wasn't the only one talking. Tyson, never one to back down from a challenge, wasted no time in calling out Jake's injury claims. "You see that stunt he pulled with the cast, hooks, and bandages? It's all a joke," Tyson remarked, exposing the inconsistencies in Jake's story. Then, just to add more fuel to the fire, Jake was seen out in public just days after the so-called attack, acting perfectly fine. He was spotted at a popular bowling alley in Los Angeles, using the very hand he had claimed to be injured. Eyewitnesses described Jake bowling with the same hand he had shown on his livestream, a glaring contradiction to his previous claims of being unable to fight due to an injury. Tyson didn't hold back, highlighting the obvious inconsistency. His out there bowling with the same hand he claimed was injured. "It's all a lie." The media seized on these discrepancies, with headlines questioning the validity of Jake's injury claims. Tyson's relentless pursuit to expose Jake's alleged cowardice only intensified, and public opinion began to shift. More and more people started to side with Tyson, feeling that Jake had fabricated the entire ordeal in a desperate attempt to garner sympathy. Tyson's allegations gained even more weight when Jake was seen attending a party just days after his so-called injury. Eyewitnesses reported that he was engaging in activities that seemed impossible if he were truly hurt. These sightings added fuel to Tyson's claims, and the public was quick to question Jake's motives. As more evidence surfaced, Tyson's version of events started to feel more believable, and fans began to question Jake's integrity. The boxing world, along with sports analysts and commentators, began to dissect every new piece of information. Big names in the sport weighed in, with former heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis saying, "If Jake is really hurt, why is he out there? It just doesn't add up." The speculation surrounding Jake's injury claims only escalated as more contradictory details emerged. But what happened next was even more shocking. Jake Paul, in response to the mounting criticism, filed a $300 million lawsuit against Mike Tyson, accusing him of aggression and making life-threatening remarks during their press conference confrontation. The lawsuit, filed on May 25, 2024, in the New York Supreme Court, accused Tyson of threatening Jake's life during the altercation. Tyson went way overboard. "He threatened my life," Jake claimed in his legal filing, referring to Tyson's explosive reaction to his trash talk. The legal battle added a dramatic new twist to the already intense rivalry between Jake and Tyson. Jake's legal team argued that Tyson's actions had caused Jake severe emotional distress and physical harm, which had been verified by medical professionals. They maintained that Tyson's explosive outburst was not only physically damaging but also amounted to criminal threats. On the other hand, Tyson's legal defense dismissed Jake's claims as exaggerated and laughable. "This whole thing is a joke. You think a lawsuit and a couple of scratches are going to scare me off?" Tyson scoffed during an interview with ESPN on May 28, 2024. His lawyers argued that Jake's injuries were far less severe than he claimed and that his emotional distress was nothing more than an act to garner sympathy and avoid the fight. The implications of this lawsuit were enormous. If Jake's claims held up, Tyson could face significant financial penalties and legal restrictions that could impact his ability to fight. The July 20th fight between Tyson and Jake was now in jeopardy, with promoters and fans alike wondering if the highly anticipated showdown would even take place. Public reaction to the lawsuit was mixed. Supporters of Jake Paul argued that he had every right to seek justice, believing that Tyson's actions were unprovoked and violent. "No one should be above the law, not even Mike Tyson," one fan tweeted, reflecting the sentiments of those who believed Jake was the victim in this situation. On the flip side, many in the boxing community and Tyson's fanbase saw the lawsuit as a cheap tactic by Jake to avoid the fight and make a quick payday. "Jake is just trying to cash in. He knew what he was getting into," said former heavyweight champion George Foreman in an interview with Sports Illustrated on May 30, 2024. As the legal proceedings continued, the boxing world found itself in suspense. The outcome of the lawsuit could have lasting effects on both Jake Paul's and Mike Tyson's careers. Fans, pundits, and analysts were all waiting to see how this dramatic chapter in boxing history would unfold. The future of the fight, and the reputations of both fighters, hung in the balance.